Bryza joins us now from here in Istanbul. Thanks so much for being with us, Ambassador. You know, from the beginning of this conflict, you'd said, for the sake of Armenia and for the sake of its prime minister, Armenia should really cease all military action because it is effectively a battle they can't win. You initially thought they would, but then, as we see, they didn't. So now, has Armenia lost more than it would have had it agreed to negotiations or considered some compromises earlier on?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me with you, Andrea. Yeah, it has lost a great deal. First of all, first and foremost, all those lives. But you're also talking about politically, and politically, it has lost the ability to be able to negotiate from strength on a final political settlement of the conflict. So what Azerbaijan is getting, because Azerbaijan ceased military operations after capturing the strategically critical town of Shusha over the weekend and went to the negotiating table, Azerbaijan is getting everything that it wanted in the negotiating framework that, frankly, that I helped to write, which means, as Melinda was saying, the return of all 7 territories surrounding Nagorno-Karabakh, and it gets it peacefully without anyone else dying, and it gets negotiations with Armenia on the future legal status of Nagorno-Karabakh itself, but from a position in which Armenia will be extremely weak because Azerbaijan will control all of the pathways to bring in food or weapons or anything else to Armenian troops that will remain through the Lachin corridor, as Melinda just described. So Armenia essentially has capitulated. And had it simply negotiated earlier on, it could have had much better terms.
Right. And just quickly, I mean, you say Azerbaijan will control these areas, but there will be the presence of Russian peacekeepers for the next 5 years. Is that strictly to stop any incursions from Armenia, or will they play a more influential role?
Yeah, so Russian peacekeepers have played a nefarious role in Moldova and in Georgia in conflicts there. And now while I was a mediator, it was clear to me that Russia would like to get its military forces on the ground in Azerbaijan because that gives them a lot of influence. But in this case, you know, there always were supposed to be peacekeepers. And we had agreed among the Minsk group co-chairs, there shouldn't be any neighboring countries that provide those troops or any parties to the conflict. That meant no Russian, no Turkish, no Iranian troops. Russia's gone back on that now, but there needs to be an immediate provision of peacekeepers right now to keep Azerbaijani and Armenian troops separated and to provide for security along that Lachin corridor. So it comes at a high cost. I mean, this agreement comes at a high cost for Azerbaijan having to accept Russian peacekeepers, but it appears to have been a necessity. And because I think this also is what Putin demanded to convince Pashinyan to sign an agreement that totally humiliates Pashinyan and probably ends his political career.
Yeah, okay. That was a question I was going to ask you as well, is where he stands. But something more important I need to get to before we run out of time. What actually happens to the Armenians that have lived in these areas, you know, for generations? Will they be able to stay safely in their homes, and will they want to?
Yeah, well, first of all, Aliyev has said all the way through, we have no animosity toward Armenian civilians, and we hope they will stay in their homes in Nagorno-Karabakh. And that was always a central tenet of everything I was helping to negotiate. The Azerbaijanis get to come back to their homes, and they become neighbors again of the Armenians who stay. Now, will the Armenians choose to stay? That is the key question. Azerbaijan has to provide a sense of security. Azerbaijan provide hope, an economic, prosperous future. I think Azerbaijan must now show, by virtue of this restraint it has demonstrated in not driving the battle all the way to Stepanakert or Hankendi or the other remaining Armenian areas, that it doesn't want to harm the Armenian civilians. And now is the time to wrap up negotiations. Right.
They have lived together for many decades, and hopefully it can just return to that piece of community. Okay, Matthew Bryza, thanks as always so much for joining us and bringing a little more clarity to a pretty complicated situation. Now